I need to start thinking about real world numbers here. My mission is to create a spike that's going to pop into this can. And I need to figure out how big of the packaging for my new product, how big it's going to end up being. So I've got a little ruler here real quick. I've got a just plain old gallon of paint. So it looks like to me a gallon of paint is about 7.5 inches tall, give or take, and about maybe 6.5 across there in diameter. So using that knowledge, imagine if I'm going to plunge this spike inside of it, how high up is it going to go? Well, if we're assuming that the plunger part is locked in place, so it's not this huge pop out, if it's going to pop in here and needs to touch the bottom, we're talking, let's see, maybe, I don't know, 13 inches or so. Let's say 12 inches, that's a foot, that's a pretty good even number. So we'll say it's 12 inches tall, and then coming out, that little kind of spout area that we created, coming out, we're going to say about maybe 4 to 5 inches, right? So let's kind of round here. We'll say 12 inches by 4 inches for the actual product. Now that we have those numbers, we can start thinking about the 3 dimensions of the actual packaging. Let's try that.
All right, so here's a quick rough sketch just to visualize before we jump onto the computer. So if I know that my package needs to be, give or take, about 4 by 12, if I know that's the case, then as I'm starting to sketch this out, I need to think about all 4 walls of the actual box, as well as a top and a bottom. Do I want that top to kind of split in the middle? Do I want it to be one solid flap? I think for an object of this size, that makes more sense. So I want to think about how this is going to end up being structured. So I know that there's going to be 4 sides, and I know that there's going to be at least a top and a bottom flap on top of this, right? Now, as I'm kind of sketching this out, let's just assume that this will be the kind of front, right? That means that this becomes the side. That means this becomes the back. That means this becomes the other side. And I need something that's going to attach these two together. So maybe like a little flap over here as well, something that I can fold in, glue, and attach to that side. Same thing here. I'm going to need a little flap that I can fold down and kind of glue. And same thing here down at the bottom. So this all kind of fold together. Again, just a rough idea, rough kind of concept. Now, if the product itself is 4 inches by 12 inches, that means my packaging is going to have to be a little bit bigger. But that also means that I could probably put my product, keeping in mind that it's going to fit kind of in here, it probably could fit a little bit more at an angle, which would give me some kind of wiggle room. So let's just round up. We'll do 4.5 and we'll do 12.5. That little bit of half an inch should be more than enough wiggle room in here. The product I'm making is not really breakable unless you're forcing it or something, so I don't need to worry about like packaging. If you're working on building or creating some electronic device, you might want to think about where am I going to put the foam packaging inside of here to stabilize my device so it doesn't get crushed. As I'm kind of designing, I want to think about where I want to put my label. Do I want some consistency across all 4 sides of the box? Do I need any kind of, barcode or something? Do I need a color registration? Anything that I want to think about ahead of time, I like to do on pen and paper first. But if you want, we can always jump directly into the computer. Let's try that. Now, I need to do a little bit of math. I've already gone ahead and clicked Create New. So now I'm going to come over here. I've got my inches selected. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. Now, for this new document, as we're going along here, I need to do, like I said, a little bit of basic math. So I know that the height and the width of my object are 4 inches by 12 inches. That's just kind of like what we went ahead and measured already. I know that I'm going to add on a half an inch, really I could probably do a quarter inch if I wanted to the overall size of the box to give it a little bit of wiggle room so it's not just wedged in there. Now, what that means is I have 4 sides that are all equaling 4.5 inches wide. If I take that 4.5 inches and I multiply it by 4, that gives me 18 inches. Then I've got an extra little flap on the side. Now that flap is not going to be, 2 inches, probably going to be a half an inch, something simple like that. So the width of my particular box is going to be 18.5. That'll be the entire width of the overall box. Now, again, simple basic math here. So I know that the overall height of my box is 12.5 inches, but then I also want to take into account the fact that I've got those flaps. Each one of those flaps needs to kind of account for the overall scale and size. So I know that the width is 4.5 inches. That means that the depth is going to be 4.5 as well. It'll be a nice little rectangular box. So that tells me that I have to take my 12.5 inches, I have to add 4.5 on top. I have to do that again by adding 4.5 on the bottom. That'll be the bottom flap. And then I also need to take into account that there's an extra little tuck, a little tiny flap on top of that, and that will be an extra 1/2 inch, let's say, for both. So we'll add another inch on top. That gives me 22.5 inches. Now, these numbers can obviously change as we go along, and I can always go back and change the overall scale of my image as well. Also, if I wanted to, just for organization's sake, I can go ahead and change the name of my document as well. We'll call this package design. Okay, so my orientation's vertical. I've got a width. I've got my height. It's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Now, we're making this document using CMYK, not using RGB. The reason for that is because we're assuming that this document would eventually be printed. Anytime you're doing print media, you want to make sure that you are working with your overall design. So I've got my picture here, and you know what? I'm telling you already, I don't think this looks correct. I might have done my math wrong. So let's give it a try real quick just to see, and then I'll help you in being able to readjust the size of your picture. It happens sometimes. So I'm going to do a very rough layout, just extremely rough. So I got my rectangular select. I can also pull up my rulers by doing Command R. There's my rulers, and they're already set to inches. I'm going to go ahead and just click. Rather than clicking and dragging out a box and hoping for the best, I can just click one time, and here I can literally type in the actual size because I've already measured and have a pretty rough estimate here. I know that one side of my document is going to have a width of 4.5 inches and a height of 12.5. So there's a nice little rectangle for me. I'm going to take that rectangle, just kind of tuck it off on the side. I'm going to hold down Control Option and click and drag. That lets me kind of make a quick duplicate. I'm going to grab both, Control Option, and duplicate again. So I can already tell my math was horrible. This is a little bit off, although, you know, I might be able to make this work if it goes edge to edge like that. I think this might be okay. All right, so there's my overall design. Looks very nice. A little bit cramped over here. I normally like a little bit of buffer zone, but I think we can print edge to edge. That'll be just fine. Now I know I'm going to tuck on a little 1/2 inch flap on one of these sides here. So we're just going to line him up so it looks nice and pretty. I'm going to take another box real quick and put on my little top flap over here. And I know that it's going to be 4.5 by 4.5. It's a little square. Go ahead and tuck him on top as well. I'm just kind of placing these, and it kind of automatically locks in place there for me. You'll notice that I get these little pink highlight lines. That's just showing me that I am perfectly intersected with my other objects. I know that the bottom flap down here is going to be the same, so I'm going to do Option and drag it on down. All right, so now I'm looking good there. Okay, I think this might work out quite nicely. Hey, I'm better at math than I thought I was. If for some reason that you did need to adjust the overall size of your picture, what you can do is always click on Artboards, click on this little piece of paper right here, and then I'm able to adjust the size and the height of my document right there, because this canvas that we're looking at, this is called an artboard. So I can make multiple artboards if I wanted to. All right, so I'm liking the overall look of this. Looks nice. I need to add on these little flaps right here. So how could I do that? Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw out a quick little rectangle, kind of letting it snap right on the sides there. But you know, if I were to zoom in here, if I had this little flap, and I've got a problem because if I fold that in, that gives me a really sharp pointed angle, and I want to have this so it kind of tapers in a little bit. The quickest, easiest way, grab my direct selection tool, grab just this top anchor point, and I'm just going to go ahead and just click down on my arrow keys, just like so. If I want to be more precise, I could always hold down Shift, and that's going to let me jump a whole lot more. So I'll do it again, click, hold down Shift, and look at that, 1, 2, 3. That looks like a nice little 45-degree angle right there. I could always make it absolutely perfect, but I'm just not that kind of guy. Go ahead and click again, Shift, 1, 2, 3, nice little angle, looking pretty good. I might as well, you know, I've already done it, so I'm just going to take this one that I've already created. I'm going to go ahead and do copy paste. To do that, do Command C, Command V. I'm going to go ahead and grab the corner, hold down Shift, and rotate them around town. Click it on in there, shrink it on down. All right, now my flaps are not nearly as nice as they were before. Let's go ahead and edit those again. So just to see where we're at, Again, remember how we do this, right? I can click, hold down Shift, 1, 2, 3. That looks pretty nice. Let's do it again over here just to see if you remember. So grab the corner with my direct selection tool. I'm not grabbing the whole thing, and I'm not using the selection tool. I'm grabbing the direct selection tool. Clicking the corner so that just that anchor point is selected. See how it's highlighted in blue? And over here, these are still white. Hold down Shift, 1, 2, 3, and good to go. You'll notice I've got a little bit of hangover right there. Do you see that? It's not a good look. Let's go ahead and pull that in so that those anchor points match. We're going to go ahead and fix that up here in a second. Okay, I'm going to grab this fella again. He's looking quite nice. I'm going to go ahead and again copy paste. Grab the corner, Shift, 1, 2, 3, flip him around, down. Then hold down spacebar to move my my canvas around here. Go ahead and plunk him right on top. And zoom out. I'm going to select everything. I could also do Command A to select everything. I'm just going to lock this in place. So that really looks exactly the way I want it to look. Everything's looking nice. This could easily fold up, kind of origami style. I could kind of fold these little flaps in. It's looking pretty dang good, I think. So next up, I want to start thinking about the overall design. I also want to start thinking about maybe making these lines right here into little dotted lines. That way I know that those are folds as opposed to hard creases. That could be something that I could do as well. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm going to lock this previous layer. That way I can't really adjust anything. That's going to help me out along the way as well. All right, so let's see what we can do here. Now, for my overall design, maybe I want to place my paint can on there, right? Maybe I plunk him on. That wouldn't be too hard to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that guy in place. Now, this picture is going to be way too big for my overall design, unless I want it to fold over multiple sides, which I could do. I'm going to think about the actual design, so I also want to think about my color theory a little bit, right? So as I'm going along, what colors are going to look nice and trustworthy, right? I want to sell this product here. So I want to focus on the product, not necessarily on the paint can. That was just an accent little addition. So I think put the product kind of front and center right there. Maybe a little bit more north. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and make a little layer mask. To do that, I'm going to draw out a rectangle that is the size that I want, almost like a little window. It's kind of blocking what I actually want to see. I'm going to grab both by holding down Shift. So I have my rectangle that will become my layer mask and my bottom shape. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do a little clipping mask, and there you go. So the overall picture is still there, but it's only showing me this little tiny window. So it looks pretty nice. Also, what's nice to think about too, notice how that line goes behind it. That is because the background right now is transparent. So whatever I decide to put in the background here, if I want a color or something like that, I can definitely do that. I also need to come up with a name. That's something I have yet to even begin to think about. So showcases the overall product, kind of front and center. If I didn't want to show it in the actual paint can, maybe I just have the actual spike kind of showing the whole product itself. Now I want a color that's going to attract customers, right? Going to really catch their eyes. So something warm. At the same time, I want to think about my color theory here a little bit. Blue is more trustworthy. Green and yellow tend to be a little bit more childish, but kind of fun and energetic, right? Green can be more environmental. Because I'm gearing this more for school-age children, elementary school all the way through high school, as a way to save money for particular classroom teachers. Using like the primary colors wouldn't be a horrible idea. I could use a kind of triadic color scheme. Pure red, kind of a pure blue, like a pure yellow. That would definitely fit the overall kind of vibe or feel of an elementary school. So for right now, let's stick with red. I think that's going to be eye-catching and kind of work well against that blue. So let's see what we can come up with. In my design, I really think I want something that's going to be eye-catching across the whole board. So how could I do that? Maybe a color. going across the page here. Well, that looks good. That definitely showcases the product, that's for sure. Well, I don't know. It's a really bold red. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe the top and the bottom are colored. So if they're kind of stacked, that could be a different kind of look and feel. And then, let's see, maybe the bottom. Maybe just the top kind of eyeball here. Basically where the text would fall. That could look pretty nice. Okay. All right. We're kind of on to something now, I think. Let's see, maybe I have this drop down just a little bit more, just to kind of give a sense of three-dimensionality. Let that color spill over the top. Definitely, that's letting the hook here kind of pop out. Looks pretty good. What if I had like paint drips kind of falling down? The only problem with that, I like the idea of paint drips, but I do not like the idea of red paint drips. That's going to read as blood, not as paint, and definitely want to think about that. That's not going to be a color I really want to be trickling down. So let's maybe not do the paint drips, if I'm going to decide to stick with the red. I don't really like this little sliver hanging out. I'm just kind of playing with the overall height. Where is this guy going to go? So I've got my template. I want to go ahead and play with this a little bit. I could even do like a little cutout or a little pop out or something maybe. We'll get there. All right, looking kind of nice, kind of eye-catching, that red versus that blue. Let's see, what else could I do? Maybe play with some yellow, right? I could grab a yellow right here. I could always pull up a yellow swatch as well. That would work fine too. Maybe yellow down at the bottom. Let's see what those warm colors can do for us. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of spicy, right? Spicy. What if I did grab that blue that's in there? Weigh it down a little bit. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of like that blue overall. That would also allow me to do those paint drips that I kind of liked. Just that solid, cool blue. Maybe not as eye-catching, but maybe more trustworthy. A little bit more trustworthy, I think. All right, so I've got my paint pump looking pretty nice right there. Any kind of documentation, maybe like an overview of what this product is, you know, who's it for, who is it by, you know, made by teachers, for teachers, that kind of slogan. Maybe put the title up top here. Yeah, okay, this is going to fall into place. I can kind of see it already. Don't be afraid to think about other packaging. Really, it sounds silly, but going out to a store of your choosing, so in my case, going out to like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something like that, and seeing what other packages exist. Sometimes it's more than enough inspiration to kind of get us on our way. So let's go ahead and hit fast forward and see what we can come up with. So I'm going to go ahead and just start sourcing some random images, barcode, things like that. I want to type up some text here for the back side of the actual box. So I've got kind of my mock-up on one side. I like that idea of doing the paint drip, so I'm just going to use some basic shapes in the pen tool here in Illustrator to make kind of a paint drip method going on. If this was my actual project, I probably wouldn't just copy paste them. I would make multiple variations. Now, this little symbol that you see me making here is called a registration mark. It's actually really, really important to have one of these on your design. However, you can actually put it on the little flap, unlike mine here I have on the actual design. You can tuck it away, but really any package that you see in the real world will have these registration marks on them. They are very useful for printers. Whenever the person goes to print this in the real world, they're going to look at that registration mark, make sure the colors are all aligned, and make sure that black little kind of circle with the cross on it, make sure that that's lined up as well. That tells the printer that all the colors have printed in their exact specific locations. So I'm just going through adding in some basic text. I want to add in some social media icons. I'm going to make them from scratch. Please try your best to remember this is Illustrator, so you don't want to just paste in some random photo that you found online. That will be rasterized and won't look nearly as good. I want to make a logo for the actual product. The one thing I didn't do for this demo, I didn't make a logo for my actual company. That might be something that I want to include. Just fitting everything to scale and to size. Now that I've got my logo down, I kind of have an idea of what font types I want, so I'm going to make sure that everything matches that font style. A good rule of thumb is to always have 2 font types, one serif and one sans serif, and that way you'll be able to not overcomplicate the whole image. So yeah, overall that looks pretty good. Obviously I'm going really quickly here, but it looks pretty nice. I think that's got a cool design. I'm going to round off all these little edges, and I think we're good. Now at any time you can always use your rulers and pull out some guides. You can also right click and pull up a grid. Sometimes using that grid allows you to align things very nicely and smoothly. You can always turn that off, and you can hide your guides as well as hiding your grid as well. And those guides and those grids will be very useful to make sure that everything is neatly aligned and professional looking. So take your time to do that. When you're all said and done, you're just going to go up to File, Save As, and save this guy as a PDF file. You may also want to save it as an Illustrator file for yourself. All right, have a good time, guys.